Some customers don't ask for refunds. They ask for therapy sessions. 1. The guest who wanted the ocean turned down. There are bad complaints, and then there's the woman who marched to the Florida resort front desk like she was filing a noise violation with Poseidon personally. Her issue? The ocean was too loud. The waves, she said, kept her awake all night, and she wanted a room farther from the sea in a beachfront hotel. When the manager explained that they cannot, in fact, adjust the volume of a natural body of water, she sighed like she was dealing with complete amateurs. She even asked if someone could turn it down after 10 p.m., as if the Atlantic Ocean follows quiet hours like a college dorm. You have to admire that level of confidence. Most people hear ocean sounds and think, relaxing. She hears it and thinks, customer service failure. 2. The passenger who expected gravity-free air travel. Some people think flying means adventure. Others think it means physics should take a holiday. This first-time flyer filed a complaint because, during takeoff, the plane kept pulling downward, which, of course, is known to the rest of us as gravity, one of Earth's default settings. She insisted she expected to float weightlessly like astronauts, and that feeling normal weight in her seat was somehow the airline's fault. When customer service explained that gravity affects literally everything on the planet, she doubled down, saying she had seen movies where planes had no gravity. She even accused the airline of using budget gravity instead of the premium one. If NASA ever needs a new test subject for patients, I know exactly who they should call. 3. The hotel guest, who thought a snoring husband was a billable problem. Most hotels boast amenities like free Wi-Fi, parking, maybe a continental breakfast. But one woman believed her room also came with professional husband management services. She stormed down to the front desk at 2 a.m., furious that her spouse was snoring too loudly, and demanded that a staff member come upstairs and make him stop. The poor night manager, who probably just wanted his shift to end quietly, explained that the hotel cannot offer marital mediation via midnight bedroom intrusion. She argued she was paying for a peaceful night, and therefore the snoring was a service failure. Honestly, I feel bad for the husband. You go to bed, and the next morning you wake up to discover your wife tried to file a warranty claim on you. 4. The passenger who wanted to roll down the airplane window. Some customers ask for extra snacks. Others ask for logic-defying miracles. A passenger on a cross-country flight rang the call button repeatedly because she couldn't roll down the window. She'd been tugging, tapping, and searching for the window switch like she was driving a 1998 Honda Civic at 35,000 feet. When the flight attendant gently explained that opening a window mid-flight would result in everyone being immediately vacuum-launched into Montana, the passenger frowned and said, "Well, car windows open at high speeds." She suggested the airline use stronger windows. You know, something that could withstand the casual inconvenience of depressurizing the entire cabin. I'm convinced the only reason flight attendants don't win Oscars is because they're too busy preventing airborne Darwin Award moments. 5. The guest who complained that the bed was too comfortable. Leave it to humanity to take a luxury and turn it into a formal grievance. A New York businessman stayed at a hotel with mattresses so plush they felt like sleeping inside a marshmallow. Unfortunately, he slept so well that he overslept, missed a multi-million-dollar meeting, and immediately decided the fault lay not with his alarm, his planning, or his relationship with the snooze button, but with the hotel. He demanded compensation, insisting the bed was dangerously comfortable and that the hotel should warn guests who have early meetings. Somewhere, a manager had to write this into a file with a straight face. Imagine the training session. Remember, folks? Warn power sleepers that our beds may cause unexpected success-destroying naps. 6. The passenger who complained the plane. Flew too high altitude is not a suggestion for commercial aviation. It's kind of the whole deal. But not for one passenger who demanded a refund because the plane flew unnecessarily high at 35,000 feet, which gave them altitude sickness. They insisted other airlines fly way closer to the ground, like a scenic bus tour with wings. When customer service explained that altitude is chosen for fuel efficiency and safety, the passenger accused the airline of flying high just to look impressive. Yes, because pilots love flexing on strangers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are cruising above the clouds because it makes us feel tall. Honestly, if we let customers decide flight altitude, half the country would be flying at tree level to admire squirrels. 7. The guest whose dog Disapproved of the mountain view. Most hotel complaints involve towels, noise, billing issues. Not this one. A pet-friendly Colorado hotel received a furious 1-star review because the guest's dog, a Bichon Frise named Sir Reginald, because of course, did not enjoy the view. The dog, apparently a critic of natural beauty, was visibly distressed by mountains and preferred urban scenery with more squirrels. The owner demanded a refund on behalf of Sir Reginald's emotional discomfort. Imagine being the front desk agent reading this, wondering what part of the hospitality manual covers canine aesthetic preferences. Chapter 12. Handling guests with sensitive Pomeranians. Honestly, the mountains probably felt insulted. 8. The passenger who thought jet fuel should smell nicer. Some airline complaints are bad. Others feel like they were drafted during a chemistry-free childhood. A passenger near the tarmac smelled jet fuel, and demanded the airline switch to better-smelling fuel. When told that jet fuel has specific chemical properties necessary for aviation, they suggested adding air freshener to the tanks, as if a Boeing 737 should take off with a delicate scent of lavender vanilla trailing behind it. They even recommended the airline use electric airplanes instead, apparently unaware that we're still struggling to get electric cars to travel 300 miles without crying. Somewhere, an engineer had to read this email and whisper, "I went to school for this." 9. The man who wanted the pool refilled with Fiji water. Some people travel for relaxation. Others travel to test the limits of human entitlement. A guest at a 5-star Miami resort demanded that the main swimming pool, the Olympic-sized one, be drained and refilled with bottled Fiji water. Not tap water, not filtered water, Fiji water. His reasoning? Chlorine was harsh on his aura, and he preferred a more artisanal hydration experience while swimming. He even calculated it, about 280,000 bottles. The manager had to explain, with the calmness of a monk, that filling a pool with premium bottled water would cost more than the hotel itself. The man was unfazed. "Then use Evian," he said, as if he were offering a budget compromise. That's not compromise. That's financial terrorism. 10. The passenger who wanted a better-shaped airplane. Some customers hate turbulence. This one hated geometry. A passenger filed a complaint insisting the plane she flew on was too airplane-shaped. She expected something sleeker, more like the spacecraft in movies. She said the design felt old-fashioned and accused the airline of being cheap for not updating to more futuristic models. When customer service explained that aircraft design is based on physics, not fashion trends, she sighed dramatically and said, "Well, it would really improve the vibe. Yes, let's redesign aerodynamics for the vibe. Good luck to the engineers who now need to make a Boeing 737 look like Iron Man." 11. The guest who thought the sheets were too white. Minimalist hotels are supposed to be soothing. Unless you're this guest who filed a complaint because their bed sheets were too aggressively white. They claimed the sheets hurt their eyes and requested something more gentle, like beige or calming oatmeal. They even suggested a shade chart for future guests. Imagine the housekeeping meeting after that complaint. "Okay, team, today we're adjusting the emotional intensity of our linens. Honestly, it takes a special kind of person to look at clean sheets and think, these are hostile." 12. The airline passenger who wanted quieter engines. So they could pretend they weren't flying. Fear of flying is real. But this complaint took it to a performance art level. A passenger demanded a refund because the engines were too loud and engine-like, which made it impossible to pretend they weren't flying. They suggested airlines install better mufflers like cars use, because apparently jet engines and Honda Civics are basically cousins. When told that jet engines must be loud, the passenger said the airline should at least play soothing nature sounds to mask the jet noise. Several flight attendants now tell this story during training as the moment they realized service jobs are actually psychological endurance sports. 13. The guest who blamed the artwork for ruining his creativity. Most hotel guests walk past hallway art without a second thought. But one man in Chicago filed a formal complaint because the abstract paintings blocked his creative energy. He claimed they disrupted his brainstorming process and stopped him from coming up with new business ideas. The manager offered to move him to another floor. He refused, because what if that floor had bad paintings too? He suggested the hotel replace the art with something commercially inspiring, like photos of successful CEOs, luxury cars, and upbeat graphs. Nothing says relaxation like a framed picture of rising quarterly revenue staring at you as you head for the ice machine. 14. The passenger who complained about the smell of jet fuel. Jet fuel smells like jet fuel. Everyone accepts this, except for one passenger who declared the smell unprofessional and demanded airlines switch to a better-smelling fuel. When told that jet fuel can't smell like lavender essential oil, they suggested adding air fresheners directly into the tanks, which is the fastest-known method of creating a mid-air fireball. They even recommended using odorless fuel like cars do. Ma'am, cars do not use odorless fuel. Nothing uses odorless fuel. That is not a category. Somewhere, an engineer's soul briefly left his body reading this complaint. 15. The guest who demanded the hotel entertain her parrot. You've heard of concierge service. But have you heard of avian enrichment support? A woman staying at a San Diego hotel complained that staff were not doing enough to stimulate her parrot's imagination. She insisted the bird, named Captain Toodlefluff, was bored with the room's energy and needed structured entertainment. She asked if the hotel could assign an employee to read to him, out loud, preferably adventure novels. The manager, now living through a side quest he never asked for, suggested turning on the TV. She replied, "He's not a television bird." Honestly, any hotel that survives a guest like that deserves a 5-star review for emotional durability alone. 16. The passenger who asked if the airline could turn off turbulence. Turbulence is one of those unavoidable parts of flying that everyone dislikes but accepts, except for the man who pressed the call button like he was summoning housekeeping at a hotel. He asked the flight attendant if the pilot could turn off the turbulence for a bit, because he was trying to read. When the attendant explained that turbulence is caused by wind and weather patterns, not a light switch in the cockpit, he rolled his eyes and said, "Well, on my last flight, they didn't have any." Sir, that's not how weather works. You don't get to file a complaint with Mother Nature. The best part? He demanded to speak to the pilot, in the middle of turbulence, to discuss options. The only option was landing and letting this man take the bus next time. 17. The guest who thought the ghost wasn't doing a good job. Some hotels advertise ghost sightings as a perk, but one guest in Savannah took that perk extremely seriously. After staying in a famously haunted room, they complained that the ghost was boring. According to the comment card, the spirit just floated quietly and didn't rattle chains or moan, and they felt cheated out of a full paranormal experience. They demanded either a discount or a more active ghost on the next visit. Imagine being the manager writing a response. "We apologize that our supernatural residents did not meet your entertainment expectations. Somewhere, that ghost is floating in the corner thinking, 'I died for this?'" 18. The passenger who wanted the airline to fly around clouds for better photos. Most people appreciate clouds. One passenger did not. During a flight, she got upset that clouds kept blocking her view while taking photos from the window. She requested the flight attendant ask the pilot to fly in a more scenic path so she could get better vacation pictures. When told the plane must follow a flight path approved by air traffic control, she scoffed and said, "It's just clouds. Go around them." She then complained that the clouds were too fluffy to look real, accusing the airline of doing something weird with the atmosphere. Not even Pixar could write dialogue this unhinged. 19. The guest who claimed their room was too quiet to sleep in. Some people want peace and quiet. This man wanted the exact opposite. He complained that his hotel room was so quiet it was unsettling, claiming the silence kept him awake. He requested the hotel provide noise options, such as recordings of city traffic, hallway chatter, or gentle arguments from neighboring rooms. The night manager offered a white noise machine. The guest refused. He wanted authentic noise. Ultimately, he fell asleep only after turning the TV to a local news channel at full volume, turning his room into a one-man reenactment of the 1992 newsroom era. Honestly, if you need chaos to sleep, maybe the problem isn't the room. 20. The passenger who expected the wings to be symmetrical at all times. Sometimes the customer is wrong. Other times the customer is catastrophically wrong. A passenger rang for a flight attendant, panicked that one wing was moving differently than the other. She insisted the plane was malfunctioning because the flaps weren't symmetrical. The attendant explained that wings adjust independently for stability and direction. The passenger paused, nodded, and said, "Okay, But can you tell the pilot I'd prefer them to match? It's stressing me out. Imagine the pilot hearing this request through the radio. Yes, hello, Captain. One passenger prefers symmetrical aerodynamics today. Please adjust physics accordingly. Gravity was in the corner, face-palming. 21. The guest who demanded a refund because the moon wasn't visible. A man booked a suite advertised as having breathtaking night sky views. On the night of his stay, clouds rolled in, nature being unreliable as usual, and he couldn't see the moon. Furious, he demanded a full refund because the hotel failed to deliver the advertised celestial experience. He argued that since the moon is a predictable object, the hotel should have checked the weather and scheduled visibility accordingly. Sir, the hotel is not NASA. They don't control lunar appointments, but he refused to back down, insisting management should move the clouds or adjust lighting. That's not hospitality. That's sorcery. 22. The passenger who insisted the crew lower the sun. Visually on a westbound evening flight, a passenger grew irritated that the sun was shining directly into her window. Instead of closing the shade, she demanded the crew lower the sun a little. The flight attendant really tried, to keep a straight face while explaining that the sun is, in fact, not controlled by the airline. The passenger replied, "Well, pilots adjust altitude all the time. Just go under it." "Yes, brilliant. Let's just dip under the sun. I'm sure the engineers will be thrilled to redesign humanity's understanding of space for your retina's comfort." 23. The guest who complained the bathroom mirror was judging them. A boutique hotel installed dramatic, high-contrast lighting meant to look artistic. One guest, however, interpreted it as a personal attack. They accused the bathroom mirror of making them look tired, puffy, and older than normal, and insisted the hotel replace the mirror with one that was emotionally supportive. They said the current one was judgmental and unforgiving, claiming it triggered a crisis of self-confidence. The manager offered to adjust the bulbs, but the guest insisted the mirror itself had hostile energy. "I think the only thing hostile was reality, and the mirror was just doing its job." 24. The passenger who wanted the plane to stop so they could take a picture. Some people sightsee from the sky. This passenger wanted a pit stop at 35,000 feet. While flying over the Grand Canyon, she pressed the call button and asked if the pilot could stop for a moment so she could get a clear photo without the plane moving so fast. The flight attendant, caught between laughter and horror, explained that planes cannot pause mid-air like an Uber pulling over for a scenic overlook. The woman insisted they just hover, because helicopters do it all the time. "Ma'am, you are in a 200,000-pound metal tube moving through the sky on purpose. Stopping is not on the menu." She later complained that the airline ruined her vacation photos with unnecessary speed. 25. The guest who demanded the hotel remove the smell of outside. A couple checked into a mountain lodge and immediately filed a complaint because their room smelled like outside. Not smoke, not mold, outside. They described the scent as trees, wind, fresh air, and maybe pine. The manager explained that, yes, they were in the mountains, surrounded by all those things. The couple demanded the hotel seal the windows better and filter out nature. They wanted the room to smell neutral, like a mall. By the end of their stay, housekeeping had to open the windows every time they cleaned just to air out the artificial air fresheners they kept spraying. Somewhere, a forest cried a single tear. 26. The passenger who insisted the seatbelt was too constricting emotionally. Airline safety is non-negotiable, unless you're this customer who refused to wear a seatbelt because it made them feel emotionally restricted. They claimed it symbolized confinement and blocked their spiritual energy flow. When the crew explained federal regulations, they countered with, "I don't recognize the FAA's authority over my chakras." They even tried to bargain. "Can I just hold the seatbelt in my hand and promise I'll be safe?" The crew said no. The passenger sighed dramatically and declared this was a violation of personal freedom. Honestly, if your spiritual journey gets disrupted by a nylon strap, maybe commercial aviation isn't your calling. 27. The guest who wanted the elevator to arrive faster. Because they were in a hurry, a guest stormed to the front desk demanding the hotel increase the elevator speed immediately. He was late for dinner and insisted the elevator moved too calmly, which he believed showed a lack of urgency from management. When told that elevator speeds are regulated by safety laws, he scoffed and said, "Then override them." "Yes, sir. Let's break federal safety codes because you're craving a steak." He even asked if they could temporarily disable the weight limits so more guests could fit. By the end of the conversation, the manager was just grateful the man didn't ask for an ejector seat to launch himself to the lobby. 28. The passenger who thought the cabin crew should open the doors for fresh air. Some people don't understand flying. This woman understood none of it. Mid-flight, she complained the air felt stale and asked the crew to open the doors for a few minutes so fresh air could circulate. When told that would result in instant catastrophe, she shook her head and said, "You just don't want to." The crew explained pressurization, oxygen levels, temperature. She replied, "I've opened windows in cars on the highway. It's fine." Yes, but cars do not travel at 7 miles above the ground in temperatures cold enough to freeze your eyelashes solid. She left a written complaint suggesting optional fresh air breaks on long flights. 29. The guest who claimed the complimentary breakfast lacked emotional warmth. Most people rate breakfast on taste, not this guest. He took one bite of the free continental breakfast and declared that the pastries were cold, both physically and spiritually. He said the buffet didn't feel welcoming and the food had a low vibrational energy. When asked what exactly was wrong, he said the muffins were emotionally distant, the orange juice was uninspired, and the cereal didn't believe in itself. He suggested the staff infuse more intention into the breakfast layout. Somewhere in the back, a cook aggressively buttered a croissant just to cope. 30. The passenger who wanted the plane to fly lower. Because they were afraid of heights, this one broke an entire crew. A passenger boarded a flight, buckled in, and then quietly told the flight attendant they had a serious fear of heights. Not flying, heights. They requested the pilot fly closer to the ground to make them feel safer. The attendant gently explained that the plane must fly high for safety and fuel efficiency. The passenger replied, "But I can see the ground from the window. That means we're too high." For a split second, the attendant had to decide whether to explain how altitude works or just smile and back away slowly. The passenger spent the whole flight leaning away from the window like the earth was chasing them. 31. The guest who demanded the hotel change the weather. Some complaints are silly. This one was mythological. A couple on their honeymoon arrived at a tropical resort during an unexpected rainy stretch. They stormed to the desk demanding the hotel do something about the weather. The manager explained that weather is, regrettably, not controlled by the Marriott Rewards program. The couple insisted the resort advertised sunshine, and therefore anything else was false marketing. They asked if the hotel could contact someone to move the rain clouds. The manager suggested indoor activities. They responded, "We didn't come here to sit inside." Honestly, I hope they kept the receipt. Not for the hotel, but for their marriage. 32. The passenger who wanted the clouds cleaned up. Before takeoff. Right before boarding, a passenger marched to the gate agent pointing at the sky like she was reporting a crime. She complained that the clouds looked messy, saying they were clumped together in an unprofessional way. She asked the airline to tidy them up, because she preferred clean, organized sky patterns when flying. The agent, who definitely does not get paid enough for meteorology-related nonsense, explained that airlines do not control clouds. The passenger replied, "You fly in them. You should at least arrange them." Imagine air traffic control receiving this. "Yes, hello. Can someone iron the atmosphere for seat 17C?" Even the sky couldn't believe it. 33. The guest who thought the pool water was too wet. People complain about temperature, color, chlorine. But this person achieved a complaint so legendary it became managerial folklore. They walked up to the front desk and announced their issue with complete seriousness. "The pool water is too wet." When asked what that meant, they clarified, "It clings to me too much when I get out." Congratulations, that's called water. It is famously wet. They suggested the hotel use a drier kind of water, maybe thicker, like in commercials. The manager just nodded and said, "We'll look into it," which is corporate code for "I'm going to tell this story at every staff party until I die." 34. The passenger who thought the airplane should drive on the runway to their hotel. After landing, a passenger refused to get up. They thought the plane would drive to the hotel like a giant airport taxi. They said they didn't feel like walking through the airport and expected the pilot to simply continue driving off the runway and into town. When the crew tried to explain, the passenger became annoyed and said, "Then what's the point of wheels?" Honestly, if airlines ever offered door-to-door aircraft valet service, society has officially collapsed. 35. The guest who wanted the hotel to change the ocean color. A couple honeymooning in the Caribbean complained that the ocean was too greenish and didn't match the shade of blue from the brochure. They demanded the hotel treat the water or apply something to adjust the color. The staff tried very politely to explain that the Atlantic Ocean does not come with a saturation slider. The couple asked to speak to whoever is in charge of the sea. If Poseidon had a customer complaint inbox, this would be the one that made him resign. 36. The passenger who insisted her emotional support ferret needed its own seatbelt. Some airlines allow small emotional support animals, but this passenger insisted her ferret, named Mr. Snickerdoodle, required a full seat and a seatbelt for safety. She argued that he deserves the same security as any human and accused the airline of species discrimination when they refused. When told he could sit in her lap, she gasped, saying, "He doesn't fly, coach." Mr. Snickerdoodle spent the flight in a carrier, giving the silent, judgmental stare only a pampered ferret can give. 37. The guest who complained. Their room had too much gravity. A man staying at a hotel wrote on his complaint card that the bed felt too heavy, the room felt too anchored, and he suspected the hotel used stronger gravity than normal. He said it made moving around emotionally taxing. The manager, with the patience of a saint, explained that gravity is consistent everywhere. The guest disagreed, saying he'd stayed in hotels with much lighter gravity. "Sir, that's not gravity. That's your mattress in 2014. 38. The passenger who demanded the crew tell the sun to move. On a long-haul flight, a passenger grew frustrated that the sun was shining directly into her window. Instead of closing the shade, she demanded a flight attendant tell the sun to move because it was in her way. When told that isn't possible, she got irritated and said, "You people never want to help. If flight attendants could move the sun, trust me, they'd use that power to evaporate half their customers instantly." 39. The guest who claimed the hotel's ice was too cold. During a conference, a businessman approached the front desk furious that the ice machine produced ice that was too cold and kept hurting his teeth. He insisted the hotel adjust the temperature of the ice so it was less cold but still solid. When staff explained this is called water, he frowned and said, "Well, your ice is too aggressive." Somewhere, a scientist briefly sensed a disturbance and didn't know why. 40. The passenger who complained the plane was flying too fast for comfort. During a smooth flight, a woman pressed the call button and asked the attendant if the pilot could slow down the plane. She said the speed was making her anxious, and she preferred a gentler pace. When told planes cannot just cruise at 120 mph like a family minivan, she wasn't satisfied. "Well, could he at least take the scenic route?" she asked, as if they were on a Sunday joyride and not in regulated airspace where turning randomly is frowned upon. 41. The guest who blamed the hotel. Because their goldfish was homesick. A family brought their pet goldfish on vacation. The fish didn't eat for a day, which is incredibly normal for a goldfish, but they filed a complaint blaming the hotel for destabilizing his emotional ecosystem. They claimed the room lighting was too harsh a vibe, causing psychological stress for Mr. Flapster. The manager offered to dim the lights. They declined, saying, "It's too late, the damage is done." Mr. Flapster was fine, the staff was not. 42. The passenger who expected the flight attendant to babysit her teenager. A mother on a 4-hour flight asked a flight attendant to keep her son entertained. Her son was 16. When the attendant said no, the woman complained that the airline was failing in family support responsibilities. She even suggested the attendant organize a small activity to keep him stimulated. The teenager spent the flight on his phone, pretending he wasn't related to the situation happening 2 seats away. 43. The guest who wanted the gym equipment reprogrammed. So it was easier. A man complained the treadmill was lying about his calorie burn and demanded the hotel adjust the machine to reflect his personal fitness truth. He said the incline was emotionally disrespectful and wanted the machine set to a more flattering difficulty level. "Sir, If you want easier exercise, try walking to the elevator and back. 44. The passenger who accused the airline of making the clouds too close. A woman sitting by the window grew upset when the plane passed through thick clouds. She called the attendant and said, "I don't like how close the clouds are. Can the pilot give them more space?" The attendant explained that flying through clouds is normal. The passenger said, "Well, I've never seen them this close before." She was on row 33, meaning she'd never sat next to a window until today. Mystery solved, self-awareness not included. 45. The guest who said the bathwater didn't feel like the water at home. A guest called front desk because the bathwater felt unfamiliar. They insisted the hotel import water from local sources because water is different everywhere. They said the hotel's water lacked emotional warmth, which is impressive for something that literally has adjustable temperature. When engineering offered to check the pipes, the guest said, "No, I just want you to fix the feeling of the water." 46. The passenger who wanted a refund because their ticket didn't include a window view of their house. After landing, a passenger complained that their flight path didn't go over their home. They believed that all flights pass over major residential areas and said they felt personally excluded when they couldn't spot their neighborhood from the sky. "I paid for a view," they said, "of my own property." The airline politely recommended Google Earth next time. 47. The guest who claimed the hotel TV was too opinionated. A man stormed to the desk saying the TV kept suggesting shows he didn't agree with, accusing it of having a bias. It was just auto-playing the recommended menu. He insisted the television was trying to influence him and demanded the hotel reset the personality of the TV. The staff turned it off and on again. He thanked them like they'd performed an exorcism. 48. The passenger who asked if the plane could land somewhere prettier. And here it is, the grand finale. A woman on a flight to Newark asked a flight attendant if the pilot could land somewhere prettier because she didn't want her vacation energy ruined by an ugly city. She suggested somewhere beachy or a place with nicer colors. When told that flights must land at the intended airport, she replied, "Well, he's the pilot. He can do whatever he wants." If pilots actually took requests like DJs at weddings, half the world would be landing in Maui. Humanity's complaint game is strong. Pick the dumbest one in the comments.